how you doing today? My name's Eric. As always, I want to thank you for taking a few minutes to check out my video today. On this episode of Smo'King, I'm going to show you how to do stuffed sous vide pastrami Reuben burgers. Boy, that's a mouthful. Now, the reason I decided to do this recipe was because last weekend was St. Patrick's Day. And here in the United States, how we usually celebrate St. Patrick's Day, whether you're Irish or not, is to drink some green beer, take a couple shots of Irish whiskey, and for dinner, most people make a corned beef. I decided to make a corned beef and I smoked it on my pit barrel cooker, turned it in pastrami. It was absolutely delicious. I'll leave a link below, so when you get a chance, definitely check out that video. But I figured a lot of people had leftover corned beef and or pastrami, and so I decided to make this dish. Now, I ate all my pastrami because it was so delicious. So I went to the local market and bought a pound of thinly sliced pastrami. I got a couple pounds of ground beef. I got some Thousand Island dressing. I got some slices of Swiss cheese, and I got some sauerkraut. It's about basically all you need, and then you can either do it on rye bread or on hamburger buns. The other thing is, since I'm doing stuff, you can do these by hand, but one thing I'd recommend if you don't have one is to get one of these burger presses. They're really inexpensive. I think you can get them around $10, $15. Really makes it much easier putting your burgers together. So I'm gonna make these burgers. We're gonna stuff them with some pastrami, some cheese, a little bit of the Thousand Island dressing. We're gonna cook them in the Sous Vide Bath for a couple hours, and then we're gonna finish them off either in a frying pan or on the grill. I'm not quite sure yet, depending on how the weather holds out. It's supposed to rain any minute now, and if it's pouring outside, I'll probably do it on the frying pan instead of on the grill, although I would prefer the grill. Anyway, super easy recipe, super delicious. This is an easy thing to do to kick up your burger game if you have some friends or relatives coming over for a barbecue or something like that. So stick around. I'm going to show you how to make this step by step. Let's get cooking. Alright, I'm going to show you how to do this. Like I said, you don't need a burger press. If you're just going to do it by hand, just make a bottom patty, kind of form it into a little cup, put the stuff inside, and then cover it up, and then, you know, enclose it. But in case you don't know how a burger press works, you got the base plate here, you got a little bottom piece that slides in, and then you got the top part, okay? And the top part consists of two pieces for pushing it down and for making the indentation. So what we do is we take a big piece of ground beef and we're going to stick that in the burger press, and then we're going to take the smaller end and we're going to push it down and make sure everything's inside, and we're going to make a little hole to put our stuffing. And you can go along the outside and kind of scrape off that excess ground beef that kind of comes out as you squeeze down. Okay? So as you can see, there's a nice indentation. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a little bit of Thousand Island dressing, just a little bit, okay? We just want a little bit of that flavor. Now if you don't like Thousand Island, you can use whatever you want. Yeah, I know some people like horseradish sauce. You can use mustard, whatever you want. Then we're going to take some pastrami and cut it into little pieces, and we're going to put the pieces of pastrami in there. We don't want to go too crazy, just enough to give it some flavor. Now when these burgers are done, I'm going to put a little bit of pastrami, a couple slices on top, as well as some melted Swiss cheese. And I've been debating all day whether to put some sauerkraut inside the burger, and I've decided against it. Because the sauerkraut obviously is there's a lot of liquid attached to it, and even if you drain it, I'm afraid that sitting inside this burger, the liquid is going to change the consistency pretty drastically. And I don't want it to be like a watery mess when it's all done. So, you know, you can try it. I might try it one day. But I think as long as I put a thin layer on top, it's going to be just as good. Okay, so we put some melted, we put the Thousand Island, the pastrami and or corned beef, and then some ripped up slices of Swiss cheese. Now we take a bottom piece and or a top piece, I should say. And we're going to just flatten it out with our hands. Try to get it obviously in the semi-round shape. And we're going to put that on top. And then just kind of spin it around. Use your hands. Try to seal it manually with your hands. Then we're going to take that press again. And we don't want to squeeze real hard, else everything's going to come, you know, squeezing out. We just want to put a little bit of pressure on there just to help it make sure it's all sealed. Just like so. So, let's take a look and see how this thing came out. The great thing about these presses, you flip them upside down, the base comes off, and look at that. You got a beautifully, perfectly shaped burger. Just like that. And then just repeat the process for how many burgers you want. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these, I'm not going to vacuum seal these. Normally I recommend vacuum sealing when you do sous vide. This is the one exception where I would prefer you guys use a Ziploc freezer bag, because when you vacuum seal, it sucks all the air out and it can really not only deform the shape of the burger, but it could also possibly cause a tear in the meat, and then all that stuffing comes squeezing out into the bag. It turns into a big mess. So to help you better able to handle the burgers, I'm going to put these in some Ziploc bags, and I'm just going to put them in the fridge while my sous vide bath warms up to temperature. If you're pressed for time, you can stick them in the freezer for 5 or 10 minutes. It just helps them maintain their shape a little bit, you know? You don't want them to fall apart. So I'm going to go ahead and make a few more of these for me and my family tonight. And I'll be back in a second to show you when they're all done. So here you go. I got 2 stuffed burgers here, 1 stuffed burger here. My son's not really into Swiss cheese and pastrami stuffed in the burger, so I just made him a plain one here. And just try to manually squeeze the air out and seal them up. I'm going to go throw these in the fridge, like I said, while I fill up my sous vide bath and bring it up to temperature. So we'll be back in a second when we're ready to plop these in. Alright, I have my sous vide bath warmed up. I'm cooking these at 135 degrees, which is like perfect medium. I'm also doing a little bit higher temperature than what a lot of people like, mainly because they're a thicker stuffed burger and I want the inside to be warm as well. So, you know, vary the temperature according to what you like. So like I said, you want to manually squeeze out the air, open up a little section here to allow some of the air to escape as you submerge it in the water. That's called the air placement method. And sometimes you have to kind of help it along by pushing it down. And naturally these things like to float until you squeeze all that air out. So like that, then once the air is squeezed out, close it up and then attach it to the side. Alright, 135 degrees, 2 hours. As you can see, one of my burger bags here is starting to float, which is normal, it's pretty common. So you want to try to keep it fully submerged under the water. Some people like to put something heavy like a spoon or something in the bag. They sell these sous vide weights. I just take a little thing here and I'm just going to like stick it in here to kind of force the bag down. Just like that. And that's it. 2 hours. So I'm going to go enjoy a beer and we'll be back shortly. Alright, while we're waiting for those burgers to cook, time for a beer review. Red Trolley Ale from Karl's Strauss Brewing Company. They're a local brewery out of San Diego. They actually have some restaurants down there. I've been to a couple of them. And they make some very decent beer. This one's, let's see here, does it say? 5.8% alcohol. And this is my son Kyle. Say hi.
Hi.
He's going to be reviewing something he's never tried. And this is kind of appropriate since we're doing corned beef. And every time I've gone to a Jewish deli, we have black cherry soda. IBC black cherry made with cane sugar. So there we go. So let's get these open and see how they taste, huh? Well, that actually said twist off, but my bad. All right. I actually really like black cherry soda.
You don't care about logic at this point.
Well, twist off, you can also use a can opener or bottle opener. Oh, that looks good.
Read the top first.
That looks good.
He just got it. He's like, okay, we're doing this.
Look at how carbonated it is. All right. And their logo on the thing here says "Making beer, not war, since '89." So they haven't been around too long, but long enough that I've had them before. All right. Let's give them a smell first. See what you think.
Dumps whole bottle.
Okay, it's good enough, Kyle. Face it so people can see what it is. Okay.
There you go.
What's it smell like?
Cherry.
A little bit of malt. Not much flavor or profile at all as far as smell. All right, cheers. All right. As always, guys, I appreciate you taking the time to watch my video. Oh, this is good. It's got a little bit of sweetness up front, but it's very smooth at the back end with a little bit of malt flavor, a little bit of hops. Oh, but it's good. I like it. How about you?
I've had a lot of soda, and this is by far, for some reason, when you first take a sip, it's not carbonated at all, and you think, oh, this must be like juice or something. But then in around 5 seconds, there is more carbonation than any soda or anything I've had before.
I still see a lot of bubbles coming up.
It's not that sour or anything, so like black cherry is usually.
Well, these sodas are usually pretty sweet. It said made with pure cane sugar, so I'm sure they put a lot of sugar in it.
I would say it's good if you were trying to find out what black cherry tasted like.
Well, what do you think? Is black cherry pretty good? You like it better than root beer?
I'm not sure.
Not sure? He likes any kind of sweet soda.
I like anything.
And I like just about every beer. Well, 135 degrees. It's been in there for around 10 minutes. So we got around an hour and 50 minutes left. So I'm going to have a couple beers. Kyle's going to enjoy some black cherry soda. You might play some video games while we wait for dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll be back in a few hours when this is ready to be taken out. And I'm going to have to keep trying. I'm going to have to keep trying to make sure these things stay down. There we go. That's a little bit better. That way it's holding both of them down. And we'll be back in a couple hours. Until then, cheers. Thanks, guys. All right, we're 4 minutes away. You know, if it goes a little longer, it's okay. Just don't try to go longer than, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 hours. But you see, I got a little creative because the burgers were floating to the top, and you really need them to have them submerged. I just took a couple kitchen utensils here and kind of a ladle and just forced them down like that. So, yeah, they're pretty much done. You can see some juice. I didn't get the super lean. I think this is 85/15, so it's a higher fat content, but you kind of want that with burgers anyway, but that's why you can see a little bit of the juice there. But yeah, we should be fine. I'll take these out in just a second. All right, here we are. It's been beeping for around a minute, so it is ready. Let me turn it off. There we go. Take this off because I'm going to need that to take the burgers out. There we go. All right. So be extra careful now when you take these burgers out, obviously. Don't manhandle them too much. Try to be as gentle as possible. And we're going to dry them off on both sides before we apply a sear. And luckily, some dark clouds came through. They blew all out. The sun is shining. I started a charcoal chimney around 15 minutes ago, so it's probably just about ready. So perfect timing. I would also recommend getting a plastic spatula, as long as something to grab it. You want to be very careful, like I said. You don't want these to fall apart, especially now that they're cooked. They're very soft. And be careful, there's going to be some liquid. Oh, there we go. It was easier than I thought. Oops. And like I said, we're going to dry these off very well because they're not going to get a good sear if they're really wet. Oh, this is very easy when you take a spatula underneath. There we go. Very gently. Boom! Very easy. Now, like I said, you're going to get some paper towels, and you're going to, I lined some on the bottom of this sheet, or this cookie sheet, and now I'm just going to dry them off really well for the paper towel. They're going to be sitting here for a few minutes while I allow the grill to preheat, which is fine. It's just going to lower the temperature. You don't want to necessarily overcook the meat with the sear, but we want to get it as hot as possible for 60 seconds to maybe 90 seconds per side. And yeah, flip it once, flip it over again, and when they're nice and crispy, they are ready. So let me go outside and make sure the grill's all set up. Be back with you guys in just a second. Alright, here we are. I put the charcoal baskets on one side because I have a spinning grate and it has a thing right in the center. Normally I would put it in the center if I was using my other grate. But we got some ashed over charcoal, and I got some in here. I'm not worried about using too much because I'll just extinguish the fire and use the charcoal for another cook down the line. I'm sure most of you guys conserve charcoal that way. Just like that. And then we're going to put our grate down on there. And like I said, you can see it's spinning. It's got a little spinner thing in the center, so I don't want to put it in the center. So this way I can put it off to the side. In fact, let me just move this like that. There we go. So I got more surface area. We're just going to let this heat up for maybe 10-15 minutes, get it nice and hot. I'll go check on those burgers. Be back in a minute. Alright, it's been around a minute and a half. We're going to flip these over. There we go. We'll give it another minute and a half, but I'm only going to give it around probably 45 seconds, and I'm going to add some cheese and some pastrami on top. We'll be right back. All right, it's been around 45 seconds. Woo! Let's flare it up. Let me spin this out of the way just for a second. That's what's good about a spinning grate. So what I'm going to do now is I got some pastrami and some Swiss cheese slices. So I'm going to, since these are pastrami Reuben burgers, I'm going to put some, put some pastrami on top of each burger. Alright, I put some pastrami, and now we're just going to layer some Swiss cheese slices. I only gave these around 45 seconds. I'm just going to let them melt the cheese slightly here, put the cover on it, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin it over the hot coals for another 30 seconds when the cheese is already mostly melted. It's been around 50 seconds or so. There we go, that's what I'm talking about. Now we're just going to spin this just over the hot coals, and now we're just going to let these go literally for another, whoo, better be careful, they're already flaming up. We want a little bit of a char on them, so just kind of watch them. Whoa! Crazy. So yeah, I'll just do this for another 45 seconds or so, get them nice and crispy, make sure that cheese and pastrami is heated up, and then we'll go inside and serve these up. Alright, I think these are just about done. Man. I think they're just crispy enough. Alright, let's get these off. We'll get inside, we'll make our burgers, and we'll slice into them. See you inside. Alright, here we go. I have a toasted bun here. I'm going to put a little bit of Thousand Island dressing on it. We'll spread it out nicely with the spoon here. Alright. You don't have to use Thousand Island. If you want spicy mustard, ketchup, do whatever you want. But you know, I'm gonna stick with the plan here. A pastrami Reuben burger. All right, next we're gonna put a burger down on the patty. Ooh, there we go. Man, that looks good. And then we're just gonna top it off with some sauerkraut. Just like so. Trying to drain it as much as you can. Oops, I like sauerkraut. I'll eat up any stuff that happens to fall off. Let's take that out. There we go. Oh boy. Let me get a knife, we'll slice into this. Alright, here it is. Let's cut into this. Man, oh man. Easier said than done. This is such a thick burger, but... I'll make sure I cut through it. Alright, moment of truth here. Oh, look at that. Perfectly cooked too. Look at that. Beautifully medium rare. You can see the pastrami inside. The melted cheese. Oh man, this looks good. Alright, I'm gonna make up a couple more. We'll get the family out here. We'll give it a taste test. Alright, here we are. My wife Monica. I got this one that I just sliced open, so grab a piece. Here's a napkin.
A piece? These things are ginormous.
I know. It's going to be a challenge getting a mouth around it, but you know what? Ooh, it smells
Oh my
good.
goodness. That is nice looking. Ready? Cheers.
Cheers.
Ah.
Alright, here goes nothing. Oh my goodness.
I can't even get my mouth around it.
Look how juicy when you squeeze it a little. You squeeze it and juice.
I can't even. I'll bite it sideways.
Mmm. I tell you, you know what? I understand it's easier to cook a burger on a grill. You don't need to sous vide it. A lot of people say, what's the point? But if you're going to make something unique like this, a big stuffed burger, and you still want the ingredients inside to melt and be warm and the meat to be cooked perfectly, it's the only way to do it, in my opinion. And once you try a burger like this, a big stuffed burger sous vide, I don't think you'll do it on the grill anymore.
It's really good.
What do you think?
It's huge though. Wow.
It is huge, but you know what? I'm tasting some of the pastrami in the inside. The cheese. Wow, is that good?
Very good.
As always, guys, I really appreciate your support watching the video. If you like what you see, hit the like button. Please consider subscribing. I'll leave a link above and below for my website, ericsmokingbbq.com, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you. Bye.
It's really good.
It's good. Restaurant quality. But I can't eat it straight on. But so I have to get a bite on the bottom and then the top.
Wow. We're good.
Sauerkraut on top.
Yeah, I was worried about putting it inside, but I think this is...
It would have been too watery.
You're probably right.